Our next speaker is Montague. He is the CEO of Co-Collective. It's a strategy and innovation company that works with leadership to create innovative customer experiences using a proprietary methodology called story doing. I hope you're going to tell us about that, because I just love the name. It's got a little circle R with it. Previous to this position, he was an advertising executive serving as co-president and chief creative officer at JWT North America. During that time, Adweek magazine named JWT the 2009 Global Agency of the Year. It was the first time that JWT, and actually the parent company WPP, had been given that honor. Fast Company magazine has named Ty one of the top 10 creative minds in the business. Ty, please join us.
So I want all of you to come with me to Athens in the year 600 BC. Now, many of you are familiar with the idea that Athens was really the birthplace of Western civilization. Ideas like democracy came out of Athens. But something that you may not know is that Athens was actually the birthplace of modern retailing. Let me explain. Athens was laid out around a small square at the center, covered about 2 acres, called the Agora. The 2 main roads in and out of Athens crossed at the center, making it not only the geographical center of Athens, but really the beating heart of the city. It was an awesome place. It was a marketplace in every sense of that word. It was a marketplace of culture. The first Greek plays were put on in a theater called the Odeon of Agrippa. It was a marketplace of ideas. The first Greek philosophers, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, spoke from the speaker's platform in the Agora. And it was a marketplace of things. Artisans and farmers from the surrounding countryside would come in and lay their wares out in open-air stalls in the Agora. The really lucky ones got inside what was the first enclosed mall, something called the Stoa of Attilos. Politicians gave speeches in the Agora. Voting took place there. People would gather to learn about new ideas and debate new concepts. And yes, transact. They would buy stuff in the Agora. But I want you to imagine the experience of a simple person from the countryside coming into this teeming environment for the day, head spinning from, the clashing din of it all, encountering exotic smells, new foods and perfumes, animals from faraway places, orators expounding on new ideas, philosophy and religion and science, and of course merchants from faraway lands selling products that you had never encountered before. I don't know if the one-day sale was invented in the Agora, but it's certainly possible. But one thing is certain. When you left the Agora, you left inspired. You left changed. You left broadened as a person. And so this experience became so compelling that it literally went viral. Marketplaces like this sprang up across Europe and the Middle East as Western civilization spread, and innovation followed. Transportation improved, trade routes sprung up, and the distance between the producers of products and the consumers of products grew. And so this gave rise to a new problem, a problem that would haunt retailers for the next several thousand years. Let's call it the distance problem. So how do we get the right stuff from the place we make it to the place people want to consume it? How do we make shopping easier, faster, less expensive, with less friction? The distance problem has been a driver of more innovation in the retail business than any other problem. And one of the first symptoms of the distance problem was, of course, lack of trust. When I could no longer look in the eye of the person who had made the thing, How do I know I'm not getting ripped off? How do I know I'm getting a good value? Or if it's food, how do I know I'm not being poisoned? And so this drove the first innovation, which was brands themselves. The first brands were marks, burned into the side of livestock. But this idea of marking your products spreads quickly. In 1266, the British monarchy decrees that all bakers have to mark every loaf that they make with a special brand so that that loaf can be traced back to its source. Bass Ale is the first legally registered so-called trademark. And these trademarks quickly become stable symbols of quality, right? I know I can trust the red triangle, even though I'm never going to look the brewmaster in the eye. And this leads to a new behavior, which is I'm not just looking for ale, I'm looking for Bass Ale. I'm not just looking for a plow, I'm looking for a McCormick plow. I'm not just looking for a dress, I want a Chanel dress. And these brands proliferate, and more innovation happens around the distance problem. General stores arrive, stores that don't just sell hats or plate armor or vegetables, but stores that sell like everything, barbed wire and candy and bolts of cloth and shovels and shoes for the kids and shoes for the horses. And in big cities, this concept is taken to, the extreme, and we see these giant retail palaces spring up. The first department stores, Selfridges and Harrods and Gimbels and Macy's and Hudson's. These are anything you could ever desire inside one building. No waiting, instant gratification. A fun fact, in 1947, you could buy an airplane in Macy's Herald Square. In Harrods, you could buy a live baby elephant. I have no idea how you got those home. In 1954, we see the first mall in Northridge, Minnesota. The giantest box of everything that anyone could imagine is here. And by 1995, there are over 80,000 malls in the United States. And so innovation in retail continues. We see, innovators continue to tinker with various curated forms of the giant box of everything. But the basic problem that we're solving for here is still the same problem. It's the distance problem. And this is the heyday of bricks and mortar. Life is really good in the retail business. And then suddenly, everything changes. Uh-oh, wait, what was that? Do you hear that? The hell is that? Oh, crap. It's the internet. And the internet appears and really ruins everything because suddenly bricks and mortar are a total liability. They're an anchor around our neck. And the big e-commerce retailers, Amazon and eBay, they scoff at the poor, bricks and mortar dinosaurs who still have like stores. Can you believe it? They've got stores. It's so cute. And so they set about dismantling bricks and mortar retail as we know it and replacing it with frictionless, experience-free commerce. It's the ultimate commodification of stuff. Whatever it is, and who cares what it is, by the way, we'll get it to you faster and cheaper. But it has to be said, they enjoy some real economic advantages. And so shit gets real. And some of the leaders of the previous era disappear. But the best bricks and mortar retailers rally and fight back. They do what retailers have always done best. They innovate. They jump online. They get into mobile in a big way. It's now about clicks and mortar. Omnichannel is the buzzword of the moment. But it is a knife fight, and it is on. Which pretty much gets us to today. So today, continuing to pursue the the distance problem, we are crushing time and distance almost to zero. The store is now in our pocket. It's in our purse. It's in our living room. Try it on at home and send it back frictionlessly. Some of the e-commerce platforms have algorithms that predict what you're going to buy next and start to move those items toward you before you have even bought them. Soon, presumably, drone delivery in a matter of minutes. And right after that, the ultimate win, moving manufacturing into the home itself through 3D printing. So I got to ask, when the point of manufacturing has become the point of consumption, what's a store for again? Now you might say that's science fiction. That's at least a decade away before people are going to be printing stuff in their homes. But here's an incontrovertible fact. 2/3 of the malls in the country are threatened or dying. We are seeing a structural shift in retail, and that shift is only accelerating. And my point is the distance problem is solved. The giantest box of everything is becoming a relic of the past. And retailers who pursue, getting the magical assortment of stuff into one of these giantest boxes of everything risk being trampled by competitors who are solving the next problem. So what is that problem? That problem is commoditization. That problem is meaning. In a commoditized world, I don't want more stuff. I want more meaning. I want stuff that has more context. I want stuff that has more inspiration. In a world of commodity, when I can have any product delivered to my door in minutes by a drone or printed in my house, the new question is, what do I really want? And why do I want that? I'm only going to buy products that are meaningful to me, products that come with a narrative that's inspiring, or a narrative that challenges me or broadens me somehow as a person. And most products today don't even come close to clearing this bar. I'll let you soak in those numbers for just a second, but it's clear that in this overwhelming onslaught of stuff, that in the last decade, brand metrics are down in almost every conceivable way. Differentiation down 90%. Consumers are seeing a massive sea of sameness when they look inside our stores. The average person now owns so much stuff that their house is 2.5 times bigger than it was in 1950. We're bursting at the seams. Storage facilities are growing so fast and becoming so numerous that there are TV shows dedicated to them. And so the question is, do people really need more stuff? And the answer is emphatically no. So the question I want to ask all of you is, how do we use omnichannel to create more meaning around the stuff that we sell in our stores? In the upcoming decade, I believe it is he or she who creates the most meaning who will win. So let's examine that for a second. Let's say I'm a big e-commerce platform, one of the perpetrators of this commoditization crime wave, and I realize that I need to create more meaning for my customers. I need to create something a little more experiential, something a little more inspiring. Wait, I know what I'll do. I'll make a place that people can come to experience my stuff in 3 dimensions and maybe connect with other people who share their passion. I'll make a store. And so, oddly, we see online companies stampeding into retail recently. We see Etsy stores and Warby stores and Blue Nile stores and Birchbox stores and even Google stores. So what's going on here? Why are online companies making stores? And I want you to notice something about these stores, because they're different. These are decidedly not giant boxes of everything. These are very lean one-offs and pop-ups and curated showrooms that are designed carefully to make a story inspiring for people and tangible for people. Following that thread, we even see publishers getting into retail. So Wired and Monocle have created stores that bring their stories to life in 3 dimensions. Today, Monocle magazine has 6 stores, 3 cafes, and an internet radio station in addition to a magazine. And I think as traditional retailers, we need to pay attention to this, because if you asked Monocle and Wired what business they were in, they would not tell you they're in the retail business. They are in the story business. And they view their retail as just an expression of their narrative. And this word story, I think, is vital in the future. We're going to hear a little bit more from Rachel about this in just a few minutes. But story, in a commoditized world, story is how I create meaning. And meaning is how I create desire. So I want to spend a couple of minutes showing you some innovative examples of ways in which retailers are creating using omnichannel tools to create meaning. And a couple of these are fairly extreme. Some of these are a little bit abstract. But I really want to fire your innovation imaginations and open your minds to some new possibilities. Because if you're a retailer and you're doing well in 2015, innovation has got to be in your blood. And I'm in the business of innovation, and so I spend time looking around the fringes at things, because often innovation starts out on the edges, and you have to pick it up and pull it to the center. So the first example is a fairly mainstream example, but I think this company does a great job at creating meaning by breaking down walls and creating a real sense of community. REI stores are much more than stores. They're places where I go to participate with my fellow REI community members around our shared passion for life outdoors. And most of you know that REI is a place where I actually have to join. You sign up to become a member of the REI community. Now, you don't actually have to join REI. You can use REI stores as a big box of stuff if you want to. But there are tangible benefits to joining the REI community, right? So really straightforward benefits are just special prices and promotions. I can get less expensive stuff if I'm an active member of the REI community. But beyond that, there are experiences I get outside of the stores. I can take classes online. I can go on outings. They have bike trips and raft trips and stuff that you can participate in as an REI member. There are services inside the store that I can partake of as a customer. They have bike and snowboard repair shops inside REI stores where they'll repair bikes and snowboards that REI doesn't even sell as a service to the community. There are climbing walls inside REI stores. So REI isn't just a place I buy. REI is a place that I buy in. It's a place I go to participate. The box of stuff is only part of this much larger narrative. And the great news for all of us is that by using our omnichannel tools, we can now surround the goods in our stores with a layer of services and a layer of experiences that create much deeper connections with our customers. Omnichannel tools can now be used to go even further than this, to actually collaborate with our customers in the creation of products. So this example is a little more extreme. How many of you have heard of Local Motors? Just a quick show of hands. So yeah, Local Motors is a really interesting company. They are totally subverting the factory and dealership model in automotive. Local Motors is really an open source community of designers, car designers and engineers. And they open source design in the same way that coders, Linux is a creation of an online coding community. The designs for new vehicles are submitted online. But the community then discusses, votes, argues, improves, and when a design gets sufficient energy and traction, it's put up for sale. And the transaction takes place online. You buy your Local Motors vehicle on the web or on your phone. And once you have bought your vehicle, you then come into a store, in quotes, a fixed Local Motors location, or in some cases, the store comes to you in a shipping container, along with several Local Motors engineers and technicians, and together you assemble your vehicle. So this is a Local Motors Rally Fighter. And if I drive a Rally Fighter, it's not just because I am totally into the design of this vehicle, it's because I was actually part of the design and assembly team. My connection with this product is profound compared to that with any traditionally created automobile. Now, admittedly, the audience of people who are going to build their own car is relatively small, but the thing that excites me about this is just the principle of using omnichannel tools to collaborate with customers in entirely new ways, to create deeper connections between them and the stuff that we're selling. Another great example is a little fashion company called 19th Amendment. And 19th Amendment was started by two women, Amanda Curtis and Gemma Soul. Can I get an advance on the notes? Thanks. Of 19th Amendment. And they named the company after universal suffrage, this idea that everybody gets a vote at 19th Amendment. And they're collaborating with their customers and with designers in an entirely new way. They've curated a community of young, up-and-coming designers. And the designers put production-ready designs up online. Customers then vote by placing an order for one of those designs. When a design reaches the minimum threshold of 10 orders, it goes into production. And the second a design goes into production at 19th Amendment, this totally changes the relationship that the customer has with that designer. The customer is now much more like a patron and a supporter of that designer, and is therefore much more likely to evangelize for that designer. They have a personal connection. Designers benefit from doing business this way because they get instantaneous feedback on the stuff that they're designing, what's working and what isn't. And the world benefits because there's no waste in this model. Nothing gets made before it's actually sold. Super important. So they don't have any stores yet, but they just announced a collaboration with Macy's, which is a client of mine, actually. And this is big for both companies because it obviously affords 19th Amendment a huge platform, but it also allows Macy's to get involved in introducing a new generation of designers to a new generation of consumers. And look, retail is really hard. Right? It's a hard business, and the lifeblood of the business is making the cash register ring. So there's real pressure for all of you to put everything out on the sales floor in every color and every possible size. But I'm going to show you an example. Actually, the next example is here to inspire you to think in maybe a slightly different way about this. That meaning can be created and connection can be created with your customers, not through abundance, but through scarcity and through mystery. How many of you are familiar with the artist Banksy? Yeah? Heard of Banksy? Some of you have heard of Banksy. So Banksy's a street artist. And Banksy's story is really about elusiveness and mystery and a really cheeky sense of humor. So Banksy's real identity has never been revealed. Nobody knows who Banksy actually is. And many of Banksy's original works of street art are actually illegal. So this sense of mystery serves a real practical purpose, which is to keep Banksy out of jail. But Banksy has created an incredibly powerful brand in the art world by withholding information and creating this real sense of mystery. And so the art world in New York was abuzz when Banksy's UK based, but Banksy announced that he was coming to New York for a project. So every night for 30 nights in a row, Banksy created an original piece of street art somewhere in the 5 boroughs of Manhattan. And when Banksy created that art, he would photograph it with his phone and put it up on his website. This was the Banksy Certificate of Authenticity. If it was on Banksy's website, it was a real Banksy. Banksy fans know to monitor this channel, and so when it went up on a site, they would fan out across the city and look for this new piece of art. When they found it, they would gather and they would photograph it and transmit it across their social network, and so the Banksy Frenzy got underway. The traditional New York media picked up on this, further amplifying Banksy's fame. And one of my favorite pieces of this was actually a retail pop-up store that Banksy put on the corner of Central Park. He staffed it with a really bored-looking old man, and he sold spray art to tourists for 60 bucks a pop. One guy walking by bought 4 of these $60 pieces of spray art. It turned out that every piece of art sold in this little shop was actually a signed Banksy original and worth $250,000 each. When the Banksy faithful learned of this, they went into a frenzy of despair that they had not actually been able to buy a Banksy for 60 bucks. And so I guess the key takeaways for me from this little case are sometimes withholding can be much more powerful than revealing. And it'd be fun to use omni-channel tools to introduce a little more Banksy into shopping, a little more mystery, and a little more maybe adventure, and maybe a sense of humor. So the last example, just very quickly, is one of my favorites, because it points out that the giant box of everything actually has a really bright future if you look at it through the right lens. The long assumed dead mall is making a comeback, not by creating a bigger box or more stuff, but by creating a really specific connection with a specific community. So a man named Jose Legaspi is taking dead malls in Hispanic neighborhoods and converting them into really vibrant and exciting Hispanic cultural centers. So in a Legaspi mall, there are places for Hispanic families to meet and spend time together, to meet other people in the Hispanic community who share their heritage. Take in culturally relevant entertainment and art programming. Food plays a huge role in Legaspi cultural centers, so both prepared food and food retail are a huge part of the experience. Religion is an incredibly important part of the Hispanic community, and so there are places to worship inside Legaspi malls. You can go to church there if you want to. And of course, you can buy stuff in one of these malls. There's a wide variety of Hispanic goods and services available inside these malls. But the point is that Legaspi is making the mall something much more meaningful than a big box of stuff. He's giving a mall a higher purpose, a purpose to create deeper connection between family members and create greater connection with a specific community of people. And this higher purpose, I really believe, is another key to success in retail in the future. I call it a quest. And a quest really transcends financial success. It defines the generous purpose of your business, the big positive change that you want to make out there in the world on behalf, and in some cases with your customers. Because it's my belief that today in retail, we're not in the stuff business. We are in the business of creating meaning in people's lives. The micro moments of transaction will take place, but they're not going to be inspired or driven by the channel. They're going to be inspired or driven by my connection with your higher purpose as a business, my belief, my buying into your higher purpose. So the winning retailers tomorrow are going to create physical and digital places that I can go to experience your quest, to really understand your quest better, and help me understand why it's important and meaningful to me. Which brings me to what I believe is the perfect metaphor for modern retailing. And lo and behold, we have come full circle, because I believe that metaphor is the agora. If you have omni-channel tools at your disposal, if you have stores and a web presence and a mobile app, you are positioned to fulfill the very same needs that the agora fulfilled for the ancient Greeks thousands of years ago. You're in a position to create much more than a marketplace of things. You're in a position to create a marketplace of culture. You're in a position to create a marketplace of ideas. You're in a position to create a marketplace of unique experiences and to collaborate with your customers in entirely new ways. Over thousands of years, these basic human instincts and needs are unchanged. Inspire me, fill my head with new ideas and new thoughts. Provide me with experiences that connect me to my community and to your quest. And I will buy. The micro moment might happen in your store. It might happen online. It might happen while I'm walking down the street on my phone. But I will buy. I want to leave you with 2 questions that only you can answer for yourselves. The first question is, what is your quest? What is the higher purpose that your business is serving in the world? And how are you making that quest real for your customers and for your employees? Because that's what a store is for in 2015. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you so much, Ty. Meaning creates desire. So he or she who creates the most meaning wins. It's pretty powerful. I love that. So thank you so much for that.